This is our third and final video analyzing the events of Genesis chapter 3. This video will be less of an analysis of events and more of an exploration of why God allowed it to happen in the first place. In chapter 2, God created Adam and Eve to be his image bearers. When he did so, he imparted to them the same free will to make choices that he has. Let's be clear. God did not cause the events that took place in Genesis 3. It was humanity's free will that brought sin into the world. Did God know the choices Adam and Eve would make? Of course he did. He wouldn't be an all-powerful God if he didn't. But just because God knows the future doesn't mean he causes or predestines it. A great example of this is found in 1 Samuel 23:11-12. In this passage, Saul, the king of Israel, is insanely jealous of David and fears that he will take away his kingship. After battling in and rescuing the city of Keilah, David is resting while Saul is negotiating with the city rulers to hand David over to him. Fearing of his life, David asks God, "Will the leaders of Keilah betray me to him? And will Saul actually come as I have heard?" And the Lord said, "He will come. Yes, they will betray you." Upon receiving the Lord's answer, David escapes with his life before the city rulers have the chance to betray him. Notice two things here. 1. God knows the future, and 2. The city leaders didn't actually hand David over to Saul. Just because God sees and knows all that will take place doesn't mean he causes them. Had David stayed, yes, he would have been betrayed and captured, but God still would not have been the cause of that betrayal. He just knew the intent of the hearts of Saul and the rulers of Keilah. Returning to Genesis, just because God knew Adam and Eve would rebel against his instructions doesn't mean he tempted them or caused them to sin. Even though Adam and Eve opened a Pandora's box of sin and calamity, God foresaw the fall of mankind and entrance of sin into the world, and he was ready to launch a plan that would rectify it while still using man's free will for his ultimate purpose and glory. Doesn't want evil to exist, and he doesn't need to use the horrible things that take place on earth to work out some master plan. Yet because of his love and his grace, he does use sinful people and awful tragic events for his glory, purpose, and good. When we sin, we have made a choice to do so. We can't say, "God predestined me to do that," because there's simply no biblical support for that line of thinking. What there is plenty of biblical support for is that God loves his creation. The Apostle John tells us God is love, and Paul writes in Romans, "While we were still sinners, Christ died for us." While we do have the freedom to sin, to make decisions that wound the very heart of God, we also have the freedom to believe in Jesus Christ and be saved. One day, God will wipe all the evil from the face of the earth, once and for all. Upon the second coming of Jesus Christ, Revelation chapter 21 says, "Behold, the dwelling place of God is with man, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them as their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and there will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the former things have passed away." Thank you for watching. Please continue to join us as we attempt to answer difficult questions about God and the Bible.